It was E3 2016. Nintendo had just blown away the world with an incredible trailer for their upcoming Zelda game, Breath of the Wild. And, what's more, they had playable demos available at their booth for anyone to try out. But, online, a group of programmers were preparing for the impossible. They were planning to steal the code from the demo, from right under Nintendo's noses. How did they plan to do this? And were they successful? Well, this is the story of the great Zelda heist of E3 2016. Hi there, welcome to Thomas Game Docs. So I'm going to skip the intro and get right into this story, because this is really weird. First, I need to set the scene. Let's travel way back to E3 2011, an event which turned out to be extremely eventful for Nintendo, all thanks to these 7 words.
Welcome to the world.
Please check out Nerdstalgic on YouTube.
I don't want to steal Reggie's thunder or anything, but I think we all know how that turned out. Regardless, E3 2011 had a lot going in Nintendo's favour, and Nintendo in return offered something pretty unheard of. Their newly revealed console would be available to play right then and there at E3. There were a number of different demos available, but the one we're interested in is this, Zelda in HD. It looks pretty darn great as well, and it's running at full 1080p, which is impressive by the Wii U standards. Now, showing off this demo was a pretty weird decision, I think. Skyward Sword for the Wii was releasing in mere months, but this demo did indeed offer a glimpse of how an HD Zelda game could look. However, series producer Eiji Aonuma made it clear that this probably wasn't what the next Zelda game would end up looking like. In an interview, he stated, "The demo that we showed at E3 was really just more of a rough idea if all we were to do was to take a Zelda game and put it in HD. This is what it might look like. We're much more interested in looking at the power of the Wii U system and seeing how we can take advantage of that power to do things that we haven't been able to do in a Zelda game before." So yeah, this preview was not...
Chat, what was the feedback for this? Do you guys remember?
Simply a vision for how the series could potentially look when injected with the processing power of the Wii U. Which is, not much. Sorry Wii U, I feel like I'm really ragging on you today. Now, it would be another 2 years before Zelda fans were given any new information on what the Wii U's Zelda game would look like, if it even received one. But then, in 2013, producer Aonuma offered some exciting news. A Zelda game was indeed in development for the Wii U, and more than that, it would be, quote, rethinking the conventions of Zelda. However, no footage was shown of the game, and no further information was given. But, come E3 2014, Aonuma gave Zelda fans what they had been waiting for, a first look at the brand new Zelda game. He explained that with the older titles, like the original Zelda for the NES, Nintendo's developers had been able to create huge open worlds for the player to explore. But, when it came to recreating this in 3D, the technology simply wasn't up to it. But, come the Wii U, the developers were finally able to realise their goal of a truly open Zelda game. Oh, and it happened to look incredible. The presentation concluded with a date, 2015. And so, later that year, at the Game Awards to be specific, producer Aonuma sat down with Nintendo man Shigeru Miyamoto and showed off the upcoming Zelda game. How the horse riding worked, the sunset effects, shooting arrows, and near the end...
Are you sure that this will be released next year?
Yes. All of the staff members are working together and doing their best.
However, in early 2015, a little while before E3, Nintendo uploaded a video to their YouTube channel announcing that Zelda for the Wii U would be delayed beyond 2015. Moreover, they wouldn't be showing the game off or even discussing it at that year's E3. Bummer. However, the following year, all of that changed. Here's Nintendo's E3 conference.
If you've been a fan of Nintendo over the years, you'll know that the Nintendo experience is different at every E3. And that's why we're coming to you directly from our show booth on the set of Nintendo Treehouse Live. On the other side of the wall behind me, The finishing touches are being made before we open it up to thousands of industry insiders in just a couple of hours.
So what happened with Reggie?
Immerse visitors in the world of a single game, the newest entry in the Legend of Zelda franchise. Here's the first look at what awaits.
I didn't know he retired.
Wake up, Link.
That was so good, though. Let it play, bitch! The trailer was like one of the best ones ever, was it not?
Zelda Breath of the Wild, huh? Looks pretty magnificent, right? And I'm not the only one that thought that. People the world over were singing its praises based on the trailer alone. But there's more, because, as Reggie announced, Nintendo's E3 booth was filled, yes, filled with demo stations, where journalists at the conference could try out a demo of Nintendo's upcoming game. And that's where we're at right now.
Sorry,
because while you and me might respond to that with, "Oh cool, I'm excited to hear about the new game," others had a more devious reaction. I need to get my hands on that demo, stat. One of these people was a 17-year-old game developer known for breaking into Mario Kart 8 in particular. However, this time round, he set his sights on Nintendo's Breath of the Wild demo. Of course, he couldn't just walk on up to the booth and grab a Wii U.
Why not?
No, there were some obstacles in his way. His first problem was the numerous Nintendo staff. They were swarming all around the area, making it hard for the programmer to partake in any kind of funny business. Not just that, there were literally hundreds of journalists and members of the public waiting to try out Nintendo's new Zelda game. Check out the crazy size of this queue. Oh, that's line for US viewers.
Jesus. Okay, dude. At this point, just watch somebody play it, dude. Who gives a fuck? Playing it yourself, like, who cares, man? Okay, yo, whoa, this is stupid.
Right, so there was no way he could just waltz on up to the booth and start entering code into the Wii U console. Luckily, he had a solution. A little while before the start of the conference, he tweeted asking if any of his followers would be willing to distract some of the Nintendo attendants to make this heist possible. Alright, so now he had his way in. But what happened once he got to the booth? How could he extract the game's data and do it without making his exploits obvious? Well, he had a trick up his sleeve. Specifically, a Wii U coding tool named TCP Gecko. TCP is the name of the protocol that powers almost the entire internet. The World Wide Web, email, all of this relies on TCP. And TCP Gecko was a tool that allowed this internet protocol to connect the Wii U console to a PC. This PC could then be used to execute basically any code you want. And one use of this tool is to copy the data from a game right while it's being played. Sure, the Wii U might lag just a little, but you can keep on playing, all while TCP Gecko is copying the files in the background. Now, the way this tool works is that the user needs to access a specific website on the Wii U browser. From there, the console can be tricked into running whatever code you like. And so, this developer set out on day one of E3, ready to try out his tricks. However, he quickly realized something. The Wii U consoles at Nintendo's booth weren't your regular Wii U's. No, these were special development systems. The code that he had prepared would work with any old regular Wii U, but not these special development ones.
Debated, dude.
So he and some of his friends gathered and started to rewrite the program, allowing it to work with the type of system Nintendo had at their booth. According to the 17-year-old himself,
having to code stuff last minute was a sort of stressing ideal, mainly because you never know how long or how much testing one might need to do before it works. And there being a very strict time frame made the situation worse.
It's him talking,
Nevertheless,
dude.
the group managed to get an updated version of the software running, and the next day, the programmer returned to the Breath of the Wild booth. But alas, he was greeted by yet another problem. As I mentioned before, to get TCP Gecko up and running, you need to navigate to a certain website. However, these Wii U's at Nintendo's booth, they weren't connected to the internet at all. Luckily, the
Bring a
17-year-old had
jetpack.
some past experience. That's right, in the past he had downloaded some leaked Wii U development tools and played around with them a little. Because of this, he figured out a way to access the Wii U's configuration page, where he could modify the system's network settings and connect it to the internet. From there, he simply executed TCP/Gecko and started copying over the files. Of course, that was easier said than done. The whole area was still filled with Nintendo employees. Update, emergency stop, relocating booths. I saw Nintendo
Why would he
looking
tweet
at me
about
from
this?
a far distance. Maybe I'm being crazy, but can't be too safe. Eventually though, using the crowd as a cover, the 17-year-old managed to get TCP/Gecko up and running. However, once the process finished,
And
he
just get
realized
into one
something.
story time.
The
XC
tool
what?
had copied across the wrong files.
It's
This
pretty
would
fun.
need some more programming. And so, he met with quite possibly the most famous Wii U breaker-intoer, NW Player 123. Now, NW Player 123 has a big reputation online, known for revealing Splatoon's DLC ahead of time just by examining the game's files.
Is that
And so,
dynamiting?
who else would be a better person to ask for the job, right? With that settled, NW Player got to work modifying TCP/Gecko to download the correct files from the demo. Unfortunately, the tool wasn't ready by the end of the day. That meant that there remained just one more day to steal the files from Nintendo's booth before it closed for good. It would be difficult, but the 17-year-old
Be
believed
nice, chat.
that
I see
he
you
could
guys.
do it. And the next morning, he headed on down to the conference and made his way to the Zelda booth. He arrived just 15 minutes after opening, but the booth was full, and Nintendo had closed the line already. Just like that, his plans were dashed.
No way, dude.
Well, that's an anticlimax, isn't it? Sorry. But it begs the question, would it even be possible to steal a demo from an E3 booth? Well, it turns out that we don't need to answer that question. Because while in this particular case, the programmer failed to grab the files, that hasn't always held true in the past. In November of 2011, for example, a prototype version of Metroid Prime 3 was leaked online. Now, this build originated from one of these things, called an NPDP cart. These were special cartridges used by game developers
All that
during the
for nothing.
development process to test out their games and demo them at places like E3. Speaking of which, here's the trailer for Metroid Prime 3 that they showed off at E3 2006. I'm afraid it is filmed on a potato.
God, am I wrong? Dude? This is such like a cop out. He wasn't gonna get the files, dude. I feel like. Oh, dude, they closed the line. Really did.
Looks pretty snazzy, if a little blurry, right? Well, just like they would later do at E3 2016, back in 2006, Nintendo had a demo which journalists could play right then and there. Curiously, the demo ran not on the Wii console like the final game. No, this demo was running on a GameCube console, and one with a massively expanded memory at that. That's right, a normal GameCube system has about 43 megabytes of RAM. This demo needed 128. Now the demo was stored on one of those NPDP carts I mentioned earlier. And it seems that a number of years later, in 2011, someone managed to get their hands on one of these Metroid carrying cartridges, as the demo leaked online.
That looks
But that's
good.
still not the only time that something like this has happened. In late 2011, mere weeks before the release of Zelda Skyward Sword for the Wii, a demo of the game was leaked online for the world to try out. This demo originated from E3 2011, and as such, it came with a few restrictions. Though the game was a whopping 900 megabytes and contained 2 to 3 hours worth of content, the demo was limited to 15-minute play sessions. However, people online soon managed to circumvent this restriction and access the entire demo. But neither of these are my favourite example of this happening.
Okay.
Because way back at E3 2004, when I was 2 years old, the most audacious demo theft that I know of took place. It had been 6 years since the release of the
This
first
better be
Metal
good,
Gear
eh?
Solid game, a game which was critically acclaimed, high-selling, and extremely influential. Then, 3 years later, in 2001, Metal Gear Solid 2 was released, which was again extremely successful from both a critical and financial point of view. And so, we arrive back at E3 2004. The long-awaited Metal Gear Solid 3 was being shown off at Konami's booth, allowing people to experience a little of what was to come.
Zoomer.
However, partway through the day, 2 young men around the age of 19 or 20 approached the booth and covertly cracked the case which was protecting the demo PS2. Then, they loitered around the unit, trying to eject the disc from the system without being noticed. And then, they ran. Like, sprinted out the doors of the conference. The LA Police Department began an investigation on these 2 men, but I can't find anything online about them being caught. I guess you can't fault their determination, if nothing else. And so, consider this video a warning. Because while E3 may seem like a hub of safety, perhaps that's not quite as true as you thought.
That's pretty crazy.
I suppose nothing can stop the overwhelming desire to play your favourite game, even if that compels you to break the law. Which I'm not defending, by the way. Don't steal. Stealing is bad. Put that on the record. Oh, but quickly, before you go, I have something really important to say. Thank
That's sweet.
you so much.
Yes,
I just reached 10,000 subscribers a couple of days ago, and it still doesn't
Oh, well,
feel
now,
real.
yes, 200.
I've been watching
didn't.
YouTube my whole life, and countless YouTube creators have had a huge influence on me as a person.
Well, that was extremely,
So to
I think,
think
dramatic.
I'd one
That's
day
okay, though.
have
That's
a
pretty good.
little audience, heck, not that little anymore. That feels amazing. Thank you all so
Wait, do
much,
sub
and I'll see you next
anniversaries
week.
of TTS.
Okay.
XQCL.